Hello, and welcome to the Telescope Show. We laugh, we discover God, and we totally nerd out. My name's Matthew Seipel Anderson.
And I am Katie Seipel Anderson.
So glad you're all with us today. Today we're talking about Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever.
Woo!
And Katie, did you know that director Ryan Coogler actually learned to swim so he could be closer to the actors during this film?
I can see that. It'd be a little unnerving if you're filming in water and don't know how to swim. I think I would learn to swim too. That makes sense.
I just have a lot of respect for the guy wanting to be close to his actors. And according to some things I've read, a lot of the actors actually learned to swim for the movie also. So, man, they were definitely getting out of their comfort zone making this movie.
Well, and that's a lot of times you have to learn skills from movies, new skills like sword fighting or, bike riding or something. But that's like a useful skill to have.
Did you know that Letitia Wright, the actress who played Shuri, actually broke her shoulder and got a concussion because she fell off a motorcycle?
Ooh.
Yeah, doing this movie, apparently there was a camera mounted to the motorcycle, and it clipped something, and the bike went down.
That's pretty intense.
Very intense. They had to take a 4-month break from filming in order for her to recover.
The movie has kind of a somber feel to it, and it really highlights grief a lot, and that really that just kind of adds to it. I wonder if at some point they're like, what is going on here?
Man. Well, I've got a couple other Did You Knows. Are you curious enough to hear them?
I'm always curious for Did You Knows.
Well, did you know that the Andor finale is coming this Wednesday?
I think I did know that. I'm a little sad about it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
exciting to know how it's going to end, but I'm a little sad by it. I was very skeptical at first for Andor, and I have really grown to like the show a lot.
Oh, I cannot wait to watch the finale. So many questions. And
I bet in the finale they're going to leave us with more questions than
probably
answers.
for season two. Also, the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special comes out on Friday. So this is like a big week.
Is an Andor and the holiday special are probably going to be very different feels.
Yeah, probably.
How are we going to choose which one to do a show on?
Well, folks, stay tuned to see how Katie and I make this decision. I think we should do a doubleheader show.
But there's just so much to talk about with Andor.
Maybe we should do 2 shows in one. In one week.
Let's not get too crazy here,
All
Matt.
right. Well, let's talk about this movie, Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. This movie, the Black Panther franchise has meant a lot to a lot of people. And I think people were hit hard by Chadwick Boseman's passing, and they've been very touched by this movie.
Yeah, when I was in the theater, there were people crying. I could hear the crying in the theater. And you can feel it. The movie really touches a lot of pieces of grief that people have, in general, but also more specific things too. The movie was kind of surrounded on the outside with grief, and they really did tie it into the actual movie as well, which I think was a nice way to really honor Chadwick, and also to help people probably deal with some of the grief, even some of the actors and writers and stuff.
And grief is not exactly, a hot topic that you want to put into an action-adventure movie very often. I mean, there's a lot of loss and people do die in these movies, but this was a little heavier than normal. But grief is something we experience a lot in life, whether it's people in our life who pass away or just things we go through, things we lose.
It could be a loss of a job or a loss of a skill or a loss of an opportunity, maybe some major disappointment. All those things can cause grief in your life. And if you're not careful, they can really cause bitterness, like we saw in Shuri in this movie.
Absolutely.
Where she had that hatred and bitterness. And one of the ways that we deal with grief is anger sometimes. But at some point, if we don't let go of that anger and move on and have hope again for the future, then it just spirals out of control and not only hurts ourselves, but hurts those around us. And we kind of saw that starting to happen, but she did make the right choice and she did end up letting it go.
Yeah, and it was cool to see her progression, how she started off like we all do, just shocked, angry, surprised, just all these emotions. And then she buried herself in her work and her science, and then realized that that wasn't going to be the thing that helped her. And it really was a spiritual need that she had that really needed to be addressed and worked through. And that's a theme that we see in Christianity is that God himself, through Jesus actually experienced grief and loss and even death and even his own death. And one story that just pops to my mind is when Jesus is crying at the tomb of Lazarus. And so you see God experiencing these things. And so when we go to God, we know that he's a God that can actually relate to the things that we go through.
Provides comfort too. There's like scriptures that talk about one of the more popular scriptures and really good scriptures is Psalm 23 where it says he has me lay down beside green pastures and leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. And when you're dealing with kind of the angst and the heartbreak that grief brings you, it your soul just craves some restoration. Your spirit craves comfort. And God can provide that in a way that people just fall short of.
Absolutely. I thought one of the coolest moments in the film was when she has that vision of when Shuri has that vision of her mother finally. And then she sees the bad events of the past rolled in reverse. And instead of ending on the tragedy, they end on the good thing. And it was just a reminder of like life and goodness and that there is beauty and love in this world also, not just tragedy. And I thought that was so cool.
And when she burns those burial clothes or those funeral clothes, and then right after that meets her nephew, her brother's son, and there's like hope there, and you see her smile again, and it's kind of a cool and powerful moment as you let go of the pain and the hurt of the past, and then you can see the hope of the future.
Absolutely. Just a new life springing up. That's so cool. Hey, speaking of new life in Wakanda, who's going to be the new king of Wakanda? Because the movie ends with this weird deal where they announce, here comes Shuri, the Black Panther, and then out comes M'Baku to the, fight challenge to see who's going to be the king. And it's like, well, did Shuri purposefully let him do that? Are they like saying she doesn't want to be the ruler and she just wants to, be like a superpowered scientist? Or is that kind of up in the air now? What do you think?
Well, and then we've also got T'Challa's son now, and he is not old enough right now, but he's there, and he knows who he is. So, what's going to happen? And then we have all this political stuff that's going on because we've got the mermaid people who are like kind of allies with Wakanda because she chose not to kill him. But then also they're kind of like, well, the people on the surface are going to attack Wakanda anyway, so then we'll get to destroy them because we're allies. So I get to have my way too. It's going to be really interesting, and Wakanda's kind of in a state of like who's in charge.
Exactly, exactly. They've really set up a lot of great tension is in the world at large. It's like Shuri and Wakanda, they moved on from their internal battle and their grief, but now there's going to be all this external conflict that's just right there waiting to happen. You mentioned the battle with the humans, and we've got this character Val who's been running around in all the post-credit scenes in the MCU. Now she finally has like a major role, and she is really the driver behind the US and Wakanda having tension. I'm really curious to see what the future brings for her.
She seems like a good villain.
Oh yeah.
She's a very interesting character, and it will be interesting to see what happens as she continues to do her evil deeds behind the scenes. How many strings is she really pulling? I mean, is she the one behind getting Hulk's blood, or is it someone else? There's a lot of things that could be happening behind the scenes that she's really actually involved with. And just the way she's kind of treacherous with like her prior husband and pretending to be maybe a little more friendly with him and then using him. I mean, it's like, whoa, what? She is capable. Another good female villain that's obviously capable of some really extreme atrocities.
Yeah, and it's fun to see someone playing the long game, being very strategic. And it's fun to see a lot of these things in the MCU finally coming together. A lot of people have complained that this new phase of MCU stuff is a little disjointed or very disjointed compared to the previous, which makes sense because it's kind of sprawling. We have so many new characters, but it's cool to see, okay, Val's been involved in Falcon and Winter Soldier and recruiting U.S. Agent, aka Bad Cap, as I was calling him, and she was recruiting Natasha's sister, and she's just in the U.S. intelligence community, like high up, but we don't know if she's good or bad, or I
I
mean,
think she's pretty
I
bad.
guess we know she's bad. What we don't know is she working for another sinister organization like
Or she
Hydra?
could just be making the U.S. more and more sinister itself.
Exactly. Or is
They could be the
she?
bad guys in
Yeah.
this. It's going to
So
be really interesting.
so that I just can't wait for that. Do we have any predictions?
Well, another theme that I see is kids, just in general. Like all these superheroes are now having kids, and you've got Thor, and and Hulk, and now T'Challa, and then we've got
Hawkeye has
Hawkeye
kids,
has kids, and we have Miss Marvel out there. So it's almost
and
like
and we have this character from this movie who's going to become Ironheart. Is her comic book name? Who the girl who created the Iron Man suit?
I was gonna say the kind of like the reformation of Iron Man. It's gonna be really interesting to see what happens with all these kids,
Yeah.
and if they start new movies for them and kind of gearing it for kids to almost raise up a new generation of Marvel fans.
Really similar to what they're doing in the Star Wars world. We're bringing these characters who were in cartoons and now we're ending up in live action, and everyone's very excited. So, yeah, Disney is being strategic and playing the long game as well.
And Disney has done kid movies for a long time, so I guess it fits with the whole theme.
Well,
Any other predictions?
I don't really have any predictions. It seems like they've really set us up for some great conflict. I do predict, maybe I'll say this. I think the next Ant-Man movie, which is coming out very soon, is going to have some really huge things as far as like bringing us to the doorstep of the next Avengers movie. Kang is playing a major role in those movies, and we saw Kang in the Loki series, and he is creating a massive army and planning some really evil things for the multiverse. So that's going to tie in Doctor Strange and Ant-Man, and of course, it's going to also could easily tie into all the conflict on Earth already. So I think that's going to be a big thing to push us toward the next Avengers.
It'll be exciting to see what happens.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Hey, if you're going through something, just remember that God loves you. We're praying for you. And if there's anything we can do to encourage you or pray for you, please reach out. You can contact us through our website, thetelescopeshow.com, or email us, thetelescopeshow@icloud.com. And yeah, thanks for listening. Take care. We love you. God bless. Bye bye.